Hello crafty friends, thanks so much for joining me today. I had a few viewers asking me to create a video on Distress Oxide. So if you are new to Distress Oxide and want to learn creative ways on how to use it, this video is for you. First technique, I'm using the oxide as a regular ink for stamping, but I'm also going to heat emboss it to give it a nice glossy finish. I'm using Kitsch Flamingo and Ranger's clear superfine embossing powder. Instead of buying multiple different colors of embossing powder, you can rather use this method and save money. I've decided to use this feather stamp, but you can use any stamp and any color Distress Oxide. It just all depends what you have in your stash. All the supplies used in today's video will be listed in the description below. When I do embossing, I like to preheat my heat gun for about 30 seconds before I start. This just makes the embossing powder react a bit faster, and I like to use a little mini oven dish. For technique 2, I'm doing emboss resist. This time I'm adding corn flour to my cardstock. This pretty much does the same job as anti-static powder. I have to be honest, the embossing ink I'm using is not the best quality, but it's okay for the purpose I'm using it for. I would rather recommend using the Versamark Watermark stamp pad. In this technique, it's hard to see the feather stamp, but once I start heating the image, it will be more visible. I've attached my card panel to a grip mat, as this makes it so much easier to add color with my blending brush. Because the image is heat embossed, the Distress Oxide will not color the image. You will see I have a piece of low-tack tape attached to my finger. This prevents finger marks from showing up on your cardstock. I'm using Kitsch Flamingo, which is the same color Distress Oxide I used in the previous technique, because I want to show how both card panels turn out using the same color. Having a saturated ink pad will make it so much easier getting ink down on your cardstock. Once done, you can wipe off any excess ink that is on your stamped image. In technique 3, I'm using this lemon or orange stencil. Once again, you can use any stencil you have. The Distress Oxide I'll be using is spice marmalade and mustard seed. Again, my grip mat is really useful for this technique, just holding everything in place. Another thing I like about the Distress Oxide is that it's so easy to clean. After using it with your stencils or embossing folders, you just rinse it under the tap and dry it with a paper towel. If you are getting value from this video, please hit the like button down below and subscribe if you would like to see more content. I love how this panel turned out. I don't think it needs much. Just add a sentiment and attach it to a card base. In technique 4, I'm using the Distress Oxide as paint, almost like a watercolor paint. I also heat emboss this image using VersaFine Clear pigment ink. When your image is embossed, sort of raised a bit, it helps as a barrier when you do your coloring. It's not as easy to go over the lines. I had a lot of fun doing this card panel because I love sunflowers and I just loved how easy it was to put color down and make it look pretty. The colors I'm using in my image is Vintage Photo, Mustard Seed and Spiced Marmalade. Once adding the color to my acrylic plate, I just spritzed it with some water before starting to paint. Once again, you can use any stamp, any color oxides, the world is your oyster. The idea is to use what you've got and just have fun. As I've mentioned before, this video is more for crafters that are new to Distress Oxide, and I'm only showing 8 techniques, but if you feel I've left out an important technique, please let me know in the comments below. For the stem and the leaves, I'm using Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. I'm not really good at shading techniques, and this is definitely a technique I would like to learn more about, but I find using a light and a darker shade in the same color, you can achieve a great result. Always start with a lighter color. Once done, I just dried it a bit with my heat gun. For technique 5, I'm using a brayer. The color trio I'm using is Tumbled Glass, Salty Ocean and Blueprint Sketch. I feel these 3 colors work very well together. I always start with the lightest color. Remember to clean your brayer in between colors to prevent contaminating your other ink pads. There is no right or wrong with this technique. You can put as little or as much ink down as you want to. What I like about this technique is you can use it as a full card panel background or use it as pattern paper for your die cuts. I'm planning on adding more colors to my collection soon. Currently I only have 16 colors. Let me know in the comments below how many do you have and if you have a favorite color. For technique 6, I'm using an embossing folder. I'm starting with the raised side or embossed side. I'm using Kitsch Flamingo. From my 16 colors, this is probably my favorite at the moment. The more saturated your pad is, the easier it will be getting ink down and the better your results will be. But I do feel it does not have to be perfect as this is handmade. I'm going to do the same technique on the indented or debossed side. Click on the link in the top corner if you'd like to see me making a card using this technique. Make sure to hold on tight to your embossing folder once you've added the cardstock, as you don't want this to move around before putting this through your die cut machine. And there we have it. 1 folder, 1 Distress Oxide, but 2 designs. For technique 7, I'll be doing some blending. I'm only using 2 colors, but you can use more colors that work together. I'm using Tumbled Glass and Salty Ocean. Blending is a technique I still have much to learn about, but I was surprised how easy it was without getting a harsh line. I'm using my low tack tape again to prevent finger marks on my cardstock.
Eighth and final technique, the smooshing technique. I'll be using picked raspberry, kitsch flamingo and spun sugar. I've definitely left the best for last. I discovered this technique on the very talented Natalie Bowers channel. I'll leave a link to her channel and the video on how to make a smoosher in the comments below. What I love about this technique is it gives you so much control. Again, you can decide how much or how little ink you want to add. Just remember to dry your ink in between layers, because if the ink is still wet, your ink colors will mix. Again, you can use this as a full card panel or to add color to your die cuts. I just love this technique. As promised, I have a freebie for you to download. I discovered this useful sheet on Hobbyland's website, which is a New Zealand craft store. This sheet is a Distress Oxide color palette. It gives you the whole range, of which I think there's about 76 by color and name. I will leave the link in the description below. I found this color palette extremely useful when I first started, and I still use it when I decide what colors I want to purchase next. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what was your favorite technique. If you enjoyed the content and would like to see more, hit the subscribe button below and ring the notification bell to be notified when new content is uploaded. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.